Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into pranic healing. It's a system that takes this universal concept of life force, what you might know as chi or ki, maybe even pneuma, and applies it with a surprisingly modern level of systematization. We're going to unpack its core philosophy, how it's actually practiced, the claims made by its proponents, which can be pretty extraordinary, and crucially, what the broader scientific community has to say. For this deep dive, we've drawn from in-depth analyses, detailed explanations of its concepts and practices, accounts of clinical trials, and also a review of various testimonials and critical perspectives. Our mission today is really to cut through the noise, give you those aha moments, provide a clear, concise, and comprehensive understanding of what truly matters about pranic healing. Okay, let's unpack this. So at its foundation, pranic healing centers on prana. It's a Sanskrit word, means life force. It's presented as this universal energy essential for life, for good health, drawn from sources like the sun, air, the ground.
Right, and there's also this idea of a more subtle divine prana for, let's say, deeper work.
Exactly. Now, what's particularly interesting, I think, is how pranic healing frames the body's energetic blueprint. It talks about a bioplasmic body, maybe better known as the aura.
This invisible energy body that sort of coexists with our physical form, extending, what, about 4 or 5 inches beyond it?
Yeah, something like that. And the term bioplasmic, it's a blend of bio for life and plasma, the fourth state of matter.
Which was chosen, seemingly, to give it a bit of a scientific veneer.
Right. It reflects the founder's background, doesn't it? Chemical engineering.
It does. It's this mix of ancient belief and modern scientific language. It's a recurring theme, really. Shows that vision of bridging worlds, making esoteric ideas feel more accessible.
Accessible, yeah, even to someone with a scientific mindset. So this bioplasmic body is essentially where prana is absorbed, distributed. It acts like an energetic blueprint for the physical body.
Meaning the idea is any defect there in the energy body.
It eventually shows up physically.
Right.
And it's also supposed to be a kind of protective shield, energetically speaking. And within this bioplasmic body, you have these powerful spinning vortices of energy called chakras.
Now, most people think of 7 chakras, right? That's the common system.
Exactly. But pranic healing distinguishes itself here. It works with 11 major chakras.
11, plus lots of minor and mini ones, too.
And the idea is that each major chakra is linked to specific organs, physiological systems, and psychological functions, too.
So an energetic imbalance in a chakra, if it's congested or depleted, is believed to eventually manifest, physically or emotionally.
Well,
What's fascinating here is how these concepts are tied together by some fundamental principles. The first one is the principle of self-recovery.
okay.
It simply states that the body has this innate, powerful ability to heal itself. Pranic healing, in this view, isn't the primary cure.
It's more like a helper.
It's exactly a facilitator. It's seen as accelerating that natural self-repair process. Think of like a cut on your finger. It'll heal on its own, but maybe stitches or a bandage speeds it up significantly.
Got it. Okay.
Then you've got the principle of life force. This is about prana being the fuel for all biological processes, like gasoline for a car. That's the analogy often used.
Right.
And the core claim is that by consciously increasing the concentration of this prana in affected areas, the body's natural healing reactions are, well, dramatically accelerated.
So what looks like miraculous healing
Is explained simply as rapid self-recovery, accelerated natural
Oh,
healing.
okay. And the last one.
And finally, there's the law of correspondence. It's an old esoteric axiom, often phrased as above, so below.
Ah, I've heard that.
It basically posits this inseparable link between the energy body and the physical body. Any imbalance in that invisible bioplasmic blueprint.
Is believed to eventually show up in the physical form.
Precisely. And this principle is the theoretical bridge. It's how they explain a no-touch therapy can actually produce physical effects by treating the energetic template first.
So we've outlined these pretty incredible concepts: invisible energy, the bioplasmic body, these 11 chakras. But where did this highly systematized approach actually come from? It's not as ancient as the idea of prana itself, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. Modern pranic healing isn't some ancient, unbroken lineage passed down through millennia. It's very much a contemporary synthesis, developed, codified, really, by one individual, Grandmaster Cho Kok Sui.
Okay.
He was born in Cebu, in the Philippines, to a Chinese family.
Yeah.
And he was a truly multifaceted, a trained chemical engineer,
Right, the engineering background again.
a successful businessman, and also a deep spiritual seeker. And this unique background, you can really see how it profoundly influenced the way he structured and presented his teachings.
That's fascinating. An engineer getting into esoteric healing, so he wasn't just like inventing things, he was drawing from existing traditions.
Precisely. Master Choakok Sui apparently spent over 18 years researching, experimenting with, and validating a huge spectrum of esoteric teachings from all over the world.
Wow, 18 years.
Yeah. Yoga, Chinese arts like Tai Chi and Qigong, Western traditions like Rosicrucianism, Theosophy, other healing modalities. He systematically tested things, apparently. Kept what worked, discarded what didn't, and then codified it. He gave it a new, standardized terminology, clear principles, clear methodologies.
In this modern system, it formally arrived in 1987 with his big book, Miracles Through Pranic Healing. I understand his explicit goal was to move beyond the secrecy and complexity you often find with esoteric knowledge.
Exactly. He wanted to create replicable, almost cookbook-style techniques.
Cookbook style.
Yeah, that could be learned by, in his words, ordinary people in just a short period of time, really aiming to democratize healing knowledge.
That's quite a shift from traditional, often very guarded, lineage-based spiritual practices, isn't it?
It truly is. And this vision led to this highly structured, tiered curriculum. It starts with basic pranic healing, learning scanning, cleansing, energizing, the fundamentals.
Okay.
Then you progress to advanced pranic healing. That introduces the use of color pranas.
Color pranas.
Essentially different energetic frequencies, chosen for more targeted, more potent effects like light green for cleansing, light red for strengthening, light blue for calming, light violet for regeneration, things like that.
Wow, specific.
Very. Then there's pranic psychotherapy, which focuses on emotional and mental issues, cleansing negative thought forms, often from specific chakras like the solar plexus. You can also explore pranic crystal healing, using crystals to amplify the energy, and pranic psychic self-defense for energetic protection.
A whole system.
And for those seeking deeper spiritual development, there's Arhatic yoga, that's positioned as the spiritual path for the more advanced practitioners. This structured approach, combined with establishing nonprofit organizations like the Institute for Inner Studies, the World Pranic Healing Foundation, it really allowed for incredible global expansion.
Like a franchise model, almost.
You could call it a spiritual franchise model, yeah. It enabled rapid spread and consistency across, I think it's nearly 150 countries now.
Wow.
And again, it's so clear how Master Choakok Sui's engineering and business background shows up. In the system's technology, its precise protocols, its scalable growth model. He even linked spiritual principles to financial success in workshops like Kriya Shakti.
That spiritual franchise model certainly sounds effective for rapid expansion, but I wonder, from an outsider's perspective, could that commercial structure also be seen as, well, maybe commercializing spiritual wisdom? Does that ever draw criticism?
That's a very perceptive question, and yes, it does. While proponents absolutely see it as democratizing knowledge, making it accessible, critics have definitely raised concerns about the tiered, often quite costly workshop system. Some have even described it as resembling a spiritual pyramid scheme.
Ooh.
So yeah, it highlights that tension between accessibility and commercialization that often pops up when spiritual systems get really popular.
It all sounds incredibly complex in theory, but how does this actually translate into practice? What would, a listener actually experience if they went for a pranic healing session?
Well, a key point to understand right away is that it's a no-touch, no-drug therapy.
Right. Completely non-invasive in that sense.
And it can be done in person or even at a distance, which is interesting.
Distance healing is a big part of it, too.
The session itself follows a very systematic protocol. First, the practitioner prepares themselves, often a brief invocation or prayer.
And then pranic breathing. Specific breathing techniques, like a 6-3-6-3 cycle, maybe. The idea is to charge their own energy body so they become a more effective channel for the healing energy. Right. Get themselves ready. Then comes step 1, scanning. This is the energetic diagnosis part. The practitioner sensitizes their hands, gets them ready to feel subtle energy, and passes them slowly over the client's body. Usually, 2 to 5 inches away?
Yeah, not touching. They're feeling for energetic irregularities in the aura and the chakras. Feeling for dense, heavy feelings, that's congestion, or maybe empty, cool feelings, that's depletion.
So they're essentially mapping the energy field.
Exactly. Finding the problem areas energetically.
Okay, then step 2 is cleansing. or sweeping, they call it.
And this is considered really, really critical, maybe the most important step.
Right. Using these sweeping hand motions, the practitioner manually removes the congested, diseased energy from the client's aura, from the chakras.
There's general sweeping for the whole aura, like an energetic shower, is how it's described. And then localized sweeping for specific problem spots.
And crucially, this part is quite unique. After each sweep, the practitioner forcefully flicks their hands towards a bowl of salt water.
That's right. The belief is that the salt water disintegrates the removed energy, preventing contamination for both the client and the practitioner. Energetic hygiene.
That saltwater bowl detail is so specific. It really underlines that idea of energetic waste or contamination. Is that concept unique to pranic healing, or do other modalities have something similar?
Well, the concept of energetic hygiene, protecting oneself from negative or diseased energy, that's definitely present in many healing traditions in various forms.
Okay.
Pranic healing just offers this very concrete, almost ritualized method for disposal. It's very characteristic of a systematic approach.
Fascinating. So only after all that thorough cleansing comes step 3, energizing, projecting prana.
Yes, only after cleansing. That's stressed heavily.
This is when fresh, vital prana drawn from external sources like the sun, air, or ground is projected into those depleted areas identified during scanning.
And importantly, practitioners are specifically taught not to use their own personal prana.
Why is that? To avoid burnout.
Exactly. To avoid depleting themselves, they act as a channel for external energy, not a battery giving away their own charge. And this sequence, cleanse before you energize, is absolutely vital in their methodology.
Right.
Energizing an area that's still congested is likened to pouring fresh coffee into a cup that's still full of stale coffee.
Ah, okay. Messy.
Yeah, it's considered wasteful at best, and at worst, it could actually cause a radical reaction or make symptoms worse because you're essentially feeding the problem.
That's such a vivid analogy. So it's not just about filling up the tank. You have to clean out the gunk first. That really does seem to differentiate it from maybe simpler ideas of just sending energy.
It's a key methodological distinction, yes.
Okay, and finally, step 4 is stabilizing.
Right, because freshly projected prana can apparently dissipate or leak out. So the practitioner projects a small amount of light blue weedy. Prana blue is seen as cooling, calming, stabilizing.
To kind of seal the treated area.
Exactly, to seal it, prevent energy leakage, help the healing integrate properly.
And the system also emphasizes this energetic hygiene throughout for the practitioner's own safety and sustainability.
Very much so. Cleansing themselves before and after sessions, the saltwater disposal, it's all part of maintaining their own energetic well-being.
And beyond these basic steps, there are those advanced techniques we touched on, like using the color pranas for specific effects.
Yes, and pranic psychotherapy for emotional issues, using crystals and distance healing.
Right, distance healing. How does that supposedly work?
It's based on the principle of energetic interconnectedness, the idea that we're all linked on an energetic level. The practitioner visualizes the client, sometimes uses a photo, and performs the entire protocol, scanning, cleansing, energizing, stabilizing remotely.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The purported benefits and the nature of the evidence. Pranic healing is presented quite ambitiously as a total life solution. That extends way beyond just physical health.
It's a very ambitious claim.
Yeah, a total life solution for a listener. That might sound, well, almost too good to be true. How do proponents kind of bridge that gap between these huge claims and, everyday reality?
Well, they primarily do it through a vast body of anecdotal reports and testimonials, and many of these describe really remarkable, sometimes miraculous recoveries, often in cases where conventional medicine had offered limited solutions or hope.
Okay, so what sort of things are claimed?
On the physical side, claims range from accelerated healing for common things like fevers, headaches, cuts, burns, all the way to helping with chronic conditions like migraines, digestive disorders, asthma. Improved surgical wound recovery is often mentioned, pain relief, better sleep. One study cited claims a 60% improvement in sleep, enhanced immunity. It's a long list.
And emotionally.
Psychologically.
For emotional and psychological well-being, pranic healing purports to address things like stress, anxiety, depression, trauma, phobias, even addictions. The mechanism is supposedly cleansing those negative emotional energies and thought forms, particularly from relevant chakras. And then there are even broader life applications.
Yes, things like improving relationships by cutting negative energetic cords, supposedly. Spiritual growth, often linked to practices like the meditation on twin hearts. And even enhancing financial prosperity through specific workshops like that Kriya Shakti one we mentioned, it really aims to cover a lot of ground. And during the sessions themselves, clients often report various subjective sensations. Feeling lighter, maybe a floating sensation, deep peace, warmth, coolness, tingling. Some people even report seeing colors.
What about negative experiences? Does that happen?
Sometimes, yes. And if negative feelings circulate during or after a session, it's often interpreted within the system as a healing crisis, like deep-seated trauma or negativity being brought up to the surface to be released.
I see. And what makes it work, according to proponents? What influences success?
Several factors are believed to play a role. Patient receptivity is key, having an open mind, not actively resisting. The practitioner's skill and experience, obviously. And interestingly, the emotional detachment of the healer is also considered important, being compassionate, but not overly emotionally invested in the outcome.
That's a powerful collection of experiences and claims. But what does the mainstream scientific and medical community say about all this? There must be a significant difference in perspective there.
Oh, there absolutely is. A huge difference. Mainstream science classifies pranic healing under the umbrella of putative energy medicine,
Putative meaning.
meaning presumed or supposed. Because its core concepts, prana, the bioplasmic body, chakras, refer to energies or structures that are simply undetectable by current scientific instruments. There's no objective proof they exist in the way described.
So the scientific consensus is?
The prevailing scientific consensus is that it's largely pseudoscientific, primarily because there's no plausible biological mechanism known that could explain how it might work.
What about attempts to link it to physics? Quantum physics sometimes gets brought up with these things.
Right, and those attempts are generally dismissed by physicists as misapplications or misunderstandings of complex theories, often called quantum mysticism, and claims that things like Kirlian photography provide evidence of the aura have been widely debunked. It mostly shows moisture variations. So, from a scientific standpoint, any positive results or those subjective experiences people report, they're typically attributed to known psychological and physiological mechanisms.
Such as?
Well, the most significant is undoubtedly the placebo effect. A patient's belief in a treatment, the ritual, the attention, all of that can trigger real physiological changes in the body, pain relief, reduced anxiety, and so on.
The mind-body connection is powerful.
Incredibly powerful. Other factors include spontaneous remission. Sometimes people just get better on their own. The therapeutic encounter itself, just having someone listen compassionately, can reduce stress, which aids healing. And maybe even cognitive dissonance. You've invested time, maybe money, so you're motivated to believe it worked.
What about risks? Is it considered harmful?
The primary risk isn't seen as direct harm from the practice itself because it is non-invasive. The big concern is the potential for patients to delay or reject proven conventional medical treatments for serious conditions, choosing pranic healing instead.
Even though proponents usually say it's complementary.
Yes, they usually position it as complementary, something to be used alongside conventional medicine, not as an alternative. But the risk of someone substituting it, especially for something serious, remains a major ethical concern for the medical community. Now, when we look specifically at clinical trials on pranic healing, well, the picture is complex. Systematic reviews looking at the broader field of energy healing often conclude with significant skepticism. Some even state the evidence for specific therapeutic effects beyond placebo is increasingly negative.
Increasingly negative, wow.
Yeah. And many studies that do show positive effects are often criticized for methodological flaws.
Yeah.
Things like small sample sizes, problems with blinding. How do you truly blind someone to whether they're receiving real energy healing or not? Insufficient control groups.
You'd need like a sham healing control group, right?
Exactly. A credible sham control is crucial to isolate the specific effect of the intervention itself beyond just attention or expectation. And publication bias is always a concern. Studies with positive results might be more likely to get published.
So it's a very mixed bag of evidence then, when you look at specific trials, not all negative.
Precisely. We do see some mixed results. For instance, there was a 2023 randomized controlled double-blind trial, pretty rigorous design on diabetic foot ulcers. It actually showed significantly better improvement in the pranic healing group compared to the control group.
Really? That sounds quite specific.
It does. And a 2024 randomized clinical trial looked at pediatric venipuncture kids getting blood drawn and found pranic healing reduced their pain scores and kept their heart rate and breathing more stable. Another 2023 trial on severe insomnia found that adding pranic healing to cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, was more effective than CBT alone.
But on the other hand,
On the other hand, you have studies like a 2001 trial on chronic pain, which found no statistically significant difference between the pranic healing groups and the simulated or placebo healing groups.
so it really highlights this fundamental clash of viewpoints, doesn't it?
It really does. You called it an epistemological divide earlier, and that's a great way to put it. A deep chasm in how we understand what is true or what counts as valid knowledge.
Yeah.
You have the very real, deeply felt subjective experiences reported by countless proponents on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other, the scientific demand for objective, measurable, replicable data that fits within known biological frameworks. And this tension, it isn't just about pranic healing, is it? It speaks to a much larger societal question.
How do we reconcile that? The power of subjective experience versus the demand for objective proof, especially when it comes to something as personal, as complex as healing.
Exactly. It's a tough one. And beyond the scientific debate, pranic healing has faced other criticisms too.
Like what?
Well, from some religious corners. Certain conservative religious groups view its concepts, universal life force, crystals, links to esoteric traditions as, well, occult or pantheistic, and
Huh.
incompatible with their specific theology.
Okay. Religious subjections. Anything else?
There have been critiques from other spiritual perspectives, too. For instance, someone like Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev has expressed concern that modalities like this might just remove symptoms without addressing the underlying karmic root cause, potentially leading to the issue resurfacing later, maybe even more severely.
Interesting. Addressing the symptom but not the root.
That's the concern raised, yeah. And then there's the whole structural financial side we touched on earlier, the spiritual pyramid scheme critique of the costly tiered workshop system.
Right.
And quite fascinatingly, after the founder, Master Choco Tsui, passed away, complex legal battles actually erupted over the intellectual property.
Or over copyrights and trademarks.
Yes. Over the copyrights to his books and the trademarks, like Pranic Healing itself, there was a significant case in the Delhi High Court in India that questioned whether pranic healing as a term could even be trademarked, given its links to ancient concepts of prana.
Wow. That highlights a real paradox, doesn't it? Claiming proprietary ownership over something presented as universal wisdom.
It absolutely does, a complex legacy issue.
So bringing this all together, what does this mean for you, the listener, maybe trying to understand pranic healing in the broader context of other energy modalities out there? How does it actually fit into that whole landscape?
That's a good way to frame it. If we connect this back to the bigger picture, we can definitely compare pranic healing to other well-known systems. Take Reiki, for example. That's probably the most common comparison.
Okay, pranic healing versus Reiki. What are the key differences?
The absolute key difference is pranic healing's meticulous cleanse then energize protocol. That sweeping, the cleansing part, is paramount. Pranic healers see themselves as more active diagnostic technicians. They work with those 11 chakras and maintain a strict no-touch policy.
Yeah, and Reiki.
Reiki is primarily a channeling modality. It's generally seen as more passive, more intuitive. Practitioners typically work with the 7-chakra system, and while it can be no-touch, light touch is also very common. The emphasis isn't so much on systematic cleansing first.
So more technician versus more channel.
That's a reasonable simplification, yeah. Then you could compare it to Qigong.
Right. How does that differ?
Qigong is primarily a self-healing practice. It's about cultivating your own internal energy, your qi, through specific movements, breathing techniques, meditation.
Okay, internal focus.
Whereas pranic healing, while it does have self-healing techniques, predominantly involves a practitioner healing another person. And critically, they're taught to draw on external prana, not primarily cultivate their own internal energy for healing others. And it's non-physical, no movements required by the client. And maybe one more comparison. Therapeutic touch, TT.
Ah, yes. Often heard about in nursing contexts.
Exactly. Both pranic healing and TT are relatively modern, non-invasive energy therapies. TT has those strong historical links to the nursing profession, developed by Dolores Krieger, a nurse.
So how is pranic healing different from TT?
Pranic healing is arguably much more complex and highly codified. It has that detailed 11-chakra anatomy, the specific use of color tranas, that very strict cleanse then energize protocol with the saltwater disposal unit. TT is perhaps generally simpler in its framework and application.
So if you put them on a spectrum.
You could say pranic healing positions itself at the more, let's call it clinical or technician-like end of the energy healing spectrum. It really emphasizes structure, precision, protocols, and actively frames itself using terms like science and technology of healing.
Okay, so to kind of sum all this up, Pranic Healing emerges as this highly systematized global energy healing system. It's really distinct for that meticulous cleanse first, then energize approach. Its detailed 11 chakra anatomy, and its, well, pretty ambitious positioning as a total life solution.
Right.
And while there's clearly strong internal success, a huge wealth of anecdotal evidence pointing to its effectiveness for many people.
Uh-huh.
This contrasts really sharply with the mainstream scientific community's view, which largely classifies it as a pseudoscience, attributing those positive outcomes primarily to the placebo effect, the therapeutic encounter, and other known psychological factors.
Creating that profound epistemological divide we talked about, that gap between subjective experience and the demand for objective data.
Exactly. And interestingly, the very act of institutionalizing this, commercially branding it, seems to have led to significant internal conflicts, especially after its founder's passing.
Looking ahead, what's the future look like? Well, pranic healing is likely to continue being a prominent complementary and alternative medicine, CNE as they say.
So, coexisting rather than integrating.
Probably. Coexisting alongside mainstream healthcare rather than fully integrating into it, at least in the near future. The ongoing challenge for its community, really, is twofold. Externally, it's to produce more high-quality, independently replicated clinical research that can actually withstand rigorous scientific scrutiny. That's a high bar.
And internally.
Internally, they'll need to continue navigating that complex task of maintaining doctrinal purity, organizational unity, and managing that whole intellectual property legacy in this post-founder era.